often say that in the Catholic Church we have the greatest product in the world, but the worst marketing team ever. Which is meaning about us, the priests. We have an amazing ability to take the gift of eternal life and make it so utterly boring that people would rather do anything than come to church. You know, having to clean the toilets or go to the rubbish tip seems like a much better option than coming here. Now, as much as I freely admit that there's a lot of room for improvement in preaching, the reality is that even when Jesus was the preacher, no one wanted to listen. Now, I assume that he must have been pretty good at preaching. So it's not simply a matter of the fact that we're boring people to death. There is something deep in the human heart that does not want to receive this gift. And this should actually make us really curious. You know, that if someone comes and offers you eternal life in heaven, endless bliss for all of eternity, and yet there is something in the human heart that just says, no, I don't want that. Or maybe it's a little bit more subtle than that. It's the fact that if you were given the option of having eternal life in heaven with God or eternal life in heaven without God, we'd probably choose the second option. You know, I think there's something in the human heart. We want to live for eternity. You know, around the world today, we've got billionaires trying to find the secret for immortality. Like we know that we're meant for more than just this life. But there is something in us where we are convinced that somehow God is going to ruin eternity. It's like going to a party full of boring people. You would do anything rather than go to that party. Doesn't matter how good the food is or how great the celebration. What is this thing that has poisoned us? That's distorted our thinking so deeply. Now, basically, this is the whole story of the Bible. You know, that in the beginning, in the Garden of Eden was basically like an engagement. God says to Adam and Eve, on behalf of the whole of humanity, I want to be in relationship with you. And I give you the whole world as the engagement present. So if you think of the whole of creation being like the engagement ring, but as we know, the serpent came in and just started distorting the picture, whispering lies into our ears saying, don't trust him, he's not good. He's going to steal all of this from you. And we've listened to that lie so deeply in us that at the point where God comes to say, I've now come into your midst to enter into this marriage relationship, we freak out because we're afraid we're going to lose the engagement present. You know, for the wives in our midst here, you know, if you could imagine, I'm sure you love your engagement ring. I'm sure it's very precious to you. And your husband gave you that engagement ring as a sign of him, of his promise, his fidelity to you. But could you imagine coming to the day of your wedding and being so afraid that on the day of your wedding that ring would be taken away from you, that either you don't turn up to the wedding or you become so enraged you decide to kill your husband? It sounds like madness, but that is the human story. That's how Jesus ended up here on the cross. Because there was something so deep within us, afraid that somehow God was going to take what we are so attached to. And in that rage, we killed him. And yet, the whole point was that it was meant to be this love relationship. You know, when you look at your engagement ring, it's not about the ring. It's about the one who loves you. And that's the whole point, is that when we look at the world, the beauty of it, all the wonders of it, it's not about the world. It's about the one who gave it to us. And maybe this is the tragedy of the way that the Jewish leaders had presented the faith, and even the way that the Catholic Church has presented the faith. We've presented it as rules and duty, and even eternal life is a reward for those who can put up with endless boredom on Sundays. You know, if you've been faithful and stayed awake during endless homilies, then you get to go to heaven. We've missed the point that it's a love relationship. And that when we come here to Mass, this is the foretaste of heaven. Because we come here and every Sunday Jesus comes into our midst in the Eucharist and he says, "This is my body given for you." He's basically saying, do you recognize my love? Can you see the free gift? And this is where we've got to step away from the lies. All of that deception that's spoken into us saying it's just boring, it's hard work. Can we actually see the joy of it? The beauty of the gift? And to allow ourselves to then respond out of that gift. You see, your faith is not meant to be a hard grind. You know, the same comment is made, you know, if we're bad at preaching, Christians are bad at joy. You know, so often the comment is made, you know, Christians just don't look redeemed. There was the famous comment by Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher. He says, I'd believe in the Redeemer if his followers looked a little bit more redeemed. They looked a little bit more joyful. Because we go through our faith thinking of it as just, I've got to grit my teeth, I've got to follow the rules, I've got to deny myself all the fun, and then hopefully heaven will be worth it. But what if you could look at your faith differently? What if it was actually an encounter every day with the love that created you? The God who delights in you, the God who gave his life for you. To come into a place where that is not just a theory or a doctrine, but actually a living relationship. And if that could become a reality, how would you respond? You know, in the same way, when a marriage reaches its fulfillment, you don't need rules. You know, on the day of your wedding, you don't get given a list of rules about how you've got to clean the house and do the toilets and clean the car. The idea is that if you love, you will want to change. Every part of you will want to go from being selfish to being generous. And the more you are aware of that free gift of love, the more you desperately want to return gratitude. And that's the whole point. You know, it's as we gaze upon this love that we do not deserve, it awakens our heart to want to become different, to become the best version of ourselves. Now, in a strange way, at the end of this parable, I think Jesus is alluding to this. Because he's trying to say that as you enter into this wedding banquet, you are meant to be changed as a person. You've got this strange situation where a person gets into the wedding banquet, but they're not wearing the wedding garment. And this is kind of the image. I've never heard of anyone being asked to come to a wedding and then being told what the entry fee is. It's always free. You know, every time you're invited, it's a free gift. But there's always that little bit down the bottom of the invitation which says what the dress code is. Okay? It's black tie or it's formal. I remember when I was 19, I was invited to a celebration dinner and no one told me the dress code. And so I turned up in shorts and a t-shirt and everyone's there in suit and tie. And I felt terrible. I was like, I know everyone's trying to be really polite to me, but I know that I don't fit in. And so you've got this guy who turns up to the wedding and he's not wearing the wedding garment. Now, you go back to some of the earliest theologians when they wrote about this, and they were basically saying what this symbolizes It's not your outward clothing, but rather it's like your inward clothing. It's a changed heart. It's a heart that has left behind all of these trivial attachments to the world, to power and to control and all that sort of thing. And it's actually become pure and free, focused on love. And so I think this is where what Jesus is saying. He's drawing you into the most precious gift. The gift is free. And if you gaze upon that love, it will change you. But sadly, a lot of people go through their faith every Sunday, and they go through it out of that sense of duty, and it doesn't change them. They get to the end of their life and nothing inside them has actually changed. They're still just as angry and selfish as they were when they started. The whole point of it is that love relationship. And so the more that we gaze upon the cross, we see how despite all of our sin, all of our rebellion and rejection of God, he still loves us. It's that pure gift of mercy. And the deeper we go into that awareness, our garment changes. The state of our heart, the state of our character becomes transformed. So we come here now into the Eucharist to receive the foretaste of heaven. Basically, every time you come to the Eucharist, you're stepping into heaven, receiving the one who has loved you to the point of death. I just really encourage you to open your eyes to see it differently, to see the gift and let it change your heart.